One of the interesting things about life is when you try and analyze what results that you're getting. And one of the problems that you start off with may be that you don't even know what the target is. Like, what is the actual target that you're going for? Because if you don't know that, like, oh, geez, anything that shows up could be your achieved target. But one of the benefits of actually having a target is not only being able to say, hey, that's the direction we're going. That's the target. That's my quarterly target. That's my yearly target. But it also gets you the opportunity to look at, hey, I said that was the target. And if you didn't hit it, what went on? Because this may be playing out at that top level, but it's likely to be playing out across your business and you're getting variable results. And this can be very confusing. You're like, wow, why am I getting variable results? And you might think, hey, it's my people. I wish I had better people. I wish my people were more consistent, more dedicated, more detailed, more accurate, harder working, instead of having to troubleshoot them and solve their problems. And I just wish I had better people. Perhaps you also have recognized that deeper to that, there is a problem with what your people are doing. And I don't mean what they're doing in terms of their work, but it's like, how are they doing it? Because 90% of the time, they're doing it without any instructions. They're just like, well, that's where we're going. That's the target. Let's just get there any way we can. From memory, from habit, from problem solving. All of these could be used to get you to the target. But I want you to realize that your variable results and the business chaos that it creates is because your team don't use the damn instructions. Now, this could be a problem that you just don't have any. Like, you never thought, hey, gee, it'd be good if we did the same thing the same way. And so you just went, you know what? We'll deal with that later, and kept kicking it down the road until you hit a place where your business was actually doing really well, but as you brought on more team, no one knew what they were doing. No one could see what the rest of the team was doing, and suddenly things aren't working so well anymore. And your results are not only variable, but your business chaos is very evident to you. This means you're working more. 30 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, 70-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks, problem after problem after problem, increasing your stress levels, keeping your team at work for longer as they try and troubleshoot these problems. This means you miss your kids, not at home for dinner, not with them, not present on the phone, meant to be hanging out, helping, doing the homework, but instead you're calling or texting or emailing through dinner. Your wife's like, dude, what is going on with you? This may mean alcohol, cannabis, drugs, porn, strippers, I don't know. Whatever your choice of sedation tool, your choice of escape. It's a difficult place to be. The coolest thing in my mind is how this doesn't arise straight off the bat for business. Does it help if you got instructions? Yeah. But it's a little like having a first child. Like, no one can tell you what a first business is going to be like. You have to do it yourself. But the second child, the third child, it gets a little easier. I got played on both my second and my third child. Second child, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm prepping, I'm ready. I know what this was like the first time through. But then I had a very different experience. I'm like, oh wow, I know how to put on the nappy. I know how to change the nappy. I know how to deal with the sleep deprivation. It was like 10% harder, maybe 20%. I'm like, great. How about that? Prepping for being 100% harder, but it was only 10% harder. But then my daughter Philippa showed up. Ooh, baby. I'm like, I played the same story. I'm like, all right, I knew how this is going to be. Like, number one, really hard. Number two, pretty easy. Number three, pretty easy. And if you've got 3 kids, you know that this is not the truth. 100% harder. 100% harder. You know, like there is no doubt that 3 children is 100% harder than 2 children. Same with business. If you are paying attention on your first business and you're like, even if it dies and it doesn't make it, if you take the SOPs, the processes, the instructions, guess what? A bunch of that can be replicated again. And you'll see this advertised. I recently bought one. I'm like, hey, you got all the templates? Great. But I bought the templates and I'm like, man, what do I do with this? This is of no use to me. It doesn't tell me how to use them. And until you work out how to get your team and you see, it's got to start with you. If you don't know how to use the instructions or you refuse to use the instructions, good luck getting your team to use the instructions. Like in life, they'll probably do it about 40%, which is still a hell of a lot better than what's going on right now for you with a 0 instructions. So going back a little bit, we said one of the problems could be that you have 0 instruction. You've got no documentation, your systems or your processes, anything's documented. Nothing's documented. It's all up here in your head. It's all up here in your team's head. Nothing written down. No systematic approach to getting work done. Or you've entered into the cemetery of SOP. What's the cemetery of SOP? Well, you put a lot of work into documenting. And you actually go through and document step after step after step after step. How does this work? How does this work? Step, 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 step. But then it gets done and it's seen as finished. Now, this is a problem. This means that you think you have documented systems. You're like, yeah, we made it. How much effort was that? We put all of these other things on hold while we got this done. And then you proceed to file it into a bookcase where it never gets seen again unless you're hiring a new team member. And they're like, well, how do I do things? You're like, yeah, baby, we got the SOP folder. Let's bust it out. And then you go through and you may not even realize this at the time, but in the gap between the creation of that and your actual deployment to your new team member, things changed. Things changed. How you do things. Like even today, I was going through a process that I wrote like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, but Facebook had not deployed their new Creator Studio yet. And so none of the stuff works. So I knew what I was looking for because I had the old instructions. I'm like, copy this link. I'm like, all right, where'd you guys hide this? So I found it, changed the documentation and went back to work. Now, did I use that documentation for every step after that? Not because all of the next 5 were the same thing. But next time I come to that process or next time one of my team comes to that process, guess what? It's the right process. Will it be forever? Unlikely. Unlikely. I just finished the Phoenix project. And the coolest thing was they learned how to do change really fast. Change really fast. DevOps, you may be familiar with this. If you're not, apparently there was a big problem where the development team and the operations team had diametrically opposed ideals. Super cool book. Loved it, loved it, loved it. If you're in IT, you should definitely read it. I shouldn't be the one telling you guys know about this book. But if you're not, there's still lessons here. There's still like, whoa. But realize that IT is in everything. Technology is in everything. And DevOps made change fast. This means that your documentation for your processes cannot live in a bookshelf. Why not? It'll go out of date. And once you do not have processes, or once you have out of date processes, and once you have variable execution of those processes, guess what you will get? 100% of the time, guaranteed variable results. 100% guaranteed variable results. You will not get the same result. It'll be variable as heck. Like, it's like, why? If you're experiencing this, you're like, man, why does my business continue to produce variable results? And you're like, man, where could it be? Maybe it's a problem with my teams. Maybe it's a problem with how we're doing business. Well, All the lights just went off. We just had a blackout. Okay, cool. Or we blew something. Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. All right, coming back. Yeah, it's back on. I'll go check that. What I want you to take from this, if that you are seeking consistent results, then you got to work out how to do that. I'm giving you some big ass hints here. If you want help with this, if you just like to skip working out how to do this, and you're like, man, I don't know, maybe we should work on this systems thing, then here's my advice. Have a look and see whether the systems business, the guys selling the systems, are systematic. You can see it. You can see it in one area, front-end marketing. Front-end marketing. I was just going through it. I'm like, man, there's a lot of quote cards here. Some of them are crap. Yep, sure. But there's a lot of gold in the quote cards. Where are those quote cards coming from? They're coming from a consistent deployment of a system over and over and over. Now, this system, this way of doing things is the way of achieving that result, whether it's in marketing or sales or fulfillment or in teams or accounting, whatever you want. You got to get thinking systematically. We are living in an era of fast-paced change, and the only way to deal with that is to have systematic thoughts, systematic processes, a systematic way of deploying things so you can keep up, your team can keep up, and you get consistent results. That's all I got for you today. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. I certainly hope enjoyed presenting it for you. If you want some help, go to systemio.dev. Look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's episode as we continue this journey into the power of systems and processes to create consistent results in business. See you then.